evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us for this conversation with Rohit. I think how we found Rohit was he like posted some very intelligent post or comment or something on LinkedIn, and that kind of like got our attention to just, the work he's doing and the way he's thinking. And we at Procurement League are always looking to bring thought leaders from all kinds of procurement industries to come and just share their journey, their wisdom, their specific insight which we might not have. And I think that's what makes us such a rich place, because we just keep collecting information from across all platforms and across all procurement people. So Rohit, just like really like you've got such a different background and way of thinking and way of even like articulating your thoughts, that I'm just really excited to chat with you and hear all about what you've done. So I'll quickly introduce Rohit from what I understand, and then Rohit, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. So Rohit here has spent about like almost like a lifetime in the area of procurement, sales, and risk management, IT today as of this moment. Rohit is the CEO of Procureit, and he's also the co-founder of Vendor Management Office. He's on the board of directors of Community Living in Durham in Canada. And yeah, he spent a lot of time in procurement, vendor management, and all such things. And I think like that's on the surface, but the work that he's done and the thinking and intellect that he's built is what I'm excited to talk about today. So I love all things technology, Rohit, and I love all things IT and all of that. So this is really exciting. Hi everybody. I'm gonna let Rohit, you talk a little bit and introduce yourself.
Thanks, Devangana, for such a wonderful introduction. I think you covered it all. The only thing that I would like to add is I've been fortunate enough to have a few experiences in my life, which led to the place where I am right now. I've had experience in sales, product management, and procurement, and I think I'm at a place where where it's a really exciting place to be in, and at a very exciting time, exciting times that we're living in, and I'm trying to make an impact in this community because I see there's a lot of potential within procurement. So just trying to do my bit. That's all.
That's amazing. So let's like kind of like just pick up from exactly where you left off, which is Rohit, like why Procureit and why vendor management? Tell us a little bit more about both of these companies that you're a big part, important.
Sure. So I think that's a great question to begin with. First of all, as you know, procurement itself is complicated, right? And then if you add the layer of technology procurement, it becomes even more complicated. With so many software and hardware solutions out there in the market, there are cloud solutions in the market. It is becoming increasingly difficult to manage technology suppliers. And in my experience, there are not many tools out there today that fully understand and provide a holistic solution from spend, contract management, risk management, governance, and compliance perspective. So with Procureit or Procureit, as we would like to call it, we are trying to tie and piece it all together so that the companies have one place to manage their supplier life cycle. It collaborates with suppliers, collaborates with sourcing and procurement teams, multiple stakeholders within the client organization and supplier organization. It provides you that control that you need to manage your supplier contracts and supplier spend, and issue management. Talk about there are so many things that people in procurement do, and it literally touches every single phase. With vendor management office, it actually started as a blog, and that was the original idea. We actually started off with a blog just to spread awareness. There are, in my experience, in talking to different people and doing my own research, I noticed that there are not many blogs, or or a single place out there where people who are in technology procurement can go and learn about technology procurement, can learn about what are the best practices. So we just started by spreading awareness about how vendor management or procurement overall is a critical function for any organization. So we post relevant research, news articles, best practices, that really mattered this community. And when we started doing that, that's how it evolved into Procure It. We said, I think we need to do more. Spreading awareness is not it. We just need to do more for this community.
Interesting. So tell a little bit more about Rohit. What exactly does Procureit like? What is your vision mission with Procureit, and what is your current vision mission with vendor management? Like, what do you
sure. So as I said, there are not many tools out there, and the tools that are out there are like white elephant. So not every company can afford such expensive solutions. So, and they're also not providing a holistic solution. So we're just trying to provide a holistic solution from start to end. So from vendor onboarding to client contract management, spend management, and then these are all from day one perspective, and then we're also from day two perspective. When it comes about managing that supplier relationship, governance becomes important. Compliance becomes important. Issue management becomes important. So we're just trying to tie it all together and provide a single platform where people who are somehow working with suppliers, they have a single platform to go to and do all these things. So whether you are a procurement, whether you are a technology asset owner, whether you are a privacy officer, whether you're cybersecurity, you're taking care of cybersecurity, whether you're an audit, it touches different facets within the organization and have those touch points and tie it all together. So my vision for this solution, or basically we're just trying to help organizations that have basically just trying to make them realize the importance of procurement as a function. First of all, not every organization has a dedicated procurement function. So first of all, the first need is the first first call to order is we need to establish the importance of procurement as a function in any organization, and then provide that platform which is very futuristic. Today we're talking about all these things, but in future, when we have enough data, then we will also roll out features in artificial intelligence. We will roll out features in blockchain. So as I said, this is an area which has a huge potential with so many technological changes that are happening around us today. I think this is a perfect place where innovation is going to take place. So that this is the next area where the innovation is going to hit, and it has a lot of potential from from synergies, efficiencies perspective, resiliency, and so there's so many things that you can achieve. And then if I start talking about it, it'll be a 2-day speech.
No, I fully get it, Rohit. So I have two questions for you to follow up on exactly this. One is, what do you think, what do you think you all bring to organizations, to companies in the space of procurement that they can't build for themselves on their own? So that's number one. And following up with that is, how do you keep yourself indispensable? Because every function and role, and even if it's a procurement role or somebody who's helping you with a project or anything like that, soon the companies learn how to do the exact thing on their own, so then they don't need you. So how do you keep yourself indispensable in a very DIY market that we're living in?
Yeah, so I think that's the state of affair in any industry, right? A company or people always have choice. They can either build it themselves or they outsource. I think a lot of companies are outsourcing a lot of things because, first of all, they don't have the expertise. Sometimes they are outsourcing because They want access to certain skill sets that they don't have in-house. Or, so if they do not have the manpower internally to manage a large deployment like this, it becomes difficult. So if you have the manpower, if you have the skill sets, by all means, go ahead and do it yourself. But that solution that companies will be building will be just internal to themselves. What we are trying to build is a global solution where multiple suppliers will be multiple suppliers and multiple clients will be tied together in this solution. And in future, the solution will also help in so many things, in so many areas. So I'll just give you a small example. Right now, contract management itself is very manual. You look at the supplier contract, the legal teams or the contract management team, they review the contract, they provide manual inputs. Tomorrow, all of this will go away. There will be no more manual contract work required because it takes so much of time. I've been involved in contracts which take 1 year, more than 1 year, more than 1.5 years to negotiate. That's just the negotiating part. So in future, with AI, the AI will write the contract for you based on the risk profile of that supplier. So if there is a supplier which has access to your PII data or organizational data, then there are certain controls that you want to be built in. There are certain terms and conditions that you want to be built in that contract. So today, all that work is manual. Tomorrow, with multiple contracts, that we have in the repository, the AI will read all those contracts based on the risk profile of similar vendors. It will write the contract for you so that your negotiation, the time required to negotiate, will minimize, which is just one area of efficiency. So that's just one example where we'll make the difference. If you're building it in-house, then it's just limited to your set of contracts. But we will have access to so many contracts across the globe. We can provide that expertise and that intelligence that is required for writing contracts. And you can rest assured that this contract is going to be the world-class contract, which is written by AI based on real facts.
Wow, that sounds fabulous. That sounds amazing. So Rohit, tell me, because you've also done a lot of procurement in the space, like sales is a big area of focus for you. What are your thoughts on how much do you push yourself in the market and how much do you rely on pull marketing, and how do you think that balance works in the space of procurement? When sales has got such a bad connotation because everyone's always trying to sell something. So how, what are your thoughts on procurement in the space of sales? What do you make sense?
So I think each country is different. So I've seen sales in India when I was in sales, right? I spent a decade in sales and I was really successful. So sales in India was completely different, and sales in North America is completely different. I don't have exposure to other countries, but I'm pretty sure that sales will be different in each geography, how that is conducted. So again, it depends on each and every market. But what really works, I think what really works in general is if you have a consultative approach, right? If you don't have that salesy approach, if you're trying to solve a problem that the client has, then it really helps establishing that relationship. If you're just salesy, just trying to sell your product without even realizing that the client has a problem, it's not going to work. So you need to have that consultative approach towards sales, where you're just trying to get into the shoes of the client, understand what their real world challenges are, and how is your product going to help them. If your product is not going to help them, don't pitch it. You're wasting your own time, you're wasting your client's time, which is not, which no one wants.
Yeah. So Rohit, two follow-up questions here. We're like, it's a very complicated space that you're in, especially like technological innovation, because like every day there's some new gimmicky thing coming in the space. uh, how do you cope intellectually in this space? What do you like? What do you cut out? What do you keep? How do you decide what matters, what doesn't? How do you decide how agile to be, how much not agile to be? Like how do you make all these decisions for yourself and for the companies that you lead and the teams that you lead?
So it's really important to understand what's happening around you, right? That's where I would begin. Uh, if you're operating in that space, you need to understand what are the changes that are happening around you. So there are some, changes that are happening at macro level. There are some changes happening at micro level. There are some technological changes which are shaping your industry. You understand all those changes, and the best way to understand that is, you go and do research. There are, so many research papers that are published out there. Some are paid, but so many others are really free. You can just go on internet and just type what you want, and there will be a research paper, independent research paper. There are companies like Deloitte, there are companies like KPMG. There are so many other research companies that publish research. Just go through, read those research papers, and understand what's changing. And how have we reached where we have reached today, and what are they projecting? How is the future going to look like? What are the things that are going to happen in future? uh, I always say that, there was a time when, there was no internet, no cell phone, right? There was, there was, there was a time when, technology was, really a Celeron machine with very minimal RAM, right? So we have come from that place to a place where, you can see robots jumping around on social media, right? You have metaverse where, now, it's metaverse is like 3D internet. And who could have imagined that, 15 20 years before that, there will be something called metaverse where, people will, their virtual avatars will be able to go into internet and do things. So I always say that we are already living in future, right? And this is only going to evolve and, get better from here. So you just need to try and make sense of all these things and how it impacts you, your industry, your organization, where you are right now, and then you create a path from, where you're right now to where you want to be. And then you create a project plan. And then you just take steps to reach there.
Interesting, amazing. Yeah, no, I personally like, really struggle with what noise to focus on, what not to. I'm like a geek. I'm always like reading every perspective to every situation. So it becomes sometimes hard to think about which direction to think in, which to not, which to disrupt and which to not. I'll pause for 5 minutes for anyone who has a question at this point before we go further.
So, Rohit, this is Niharika. So, more than the question, I think I really would like to reiterate what you said about, because I've been also in this industry for quite some time now, right? Like, and I really do feel that we have seen so much of progress and growth from IT perspective for everything else, networking, application infrastructure, storage, and every single thing out there, right? But somehow this industry, the procurements, of our words, or vendor management of our words and everything, somehow I feel like we've been left behind, and there is not much progress, and there's not much, advancement when it comes to how we can leverage technology to make our jobs easier, right? Like I'm just, you responded to my post, like even to do the third party risk management and even to do the classification, believe it or not, I have to go through like 10 contracts, and I have to go to like 10 systems to find those contracts just to find the contracts. And those vendors have been with our company for years. It's not even like, they just came on board, so no one knows anything. They've been there for years. So I really appreciate that you have taken this initiative and this approach where technology is something that we can leverage to make our lives easier, because we all need that.
So yeah, and Harika, you brought up a really good point. I know there is not a lot of progress, and I think companies are still toying with the idea of procurement as a function.
Yeah.
There are so many companies who do not have any procurement function whatsoever. So part of our job, and it's just not my job. I think it's the job of everyone within this community, everyone on this call, to spread awareness about procurement as a function. It's a really critical function for any organization. It can have a huge impact on any company's P&L. Today I can hardly imagine if there is a company out there that can survive without a supplier, be it a technology supplier or non-technology supplier. But I think there is a company out there that can survive without the suppliers. When a company cannot operate without a supplier, then you need a system to manage those suppliers, because if you have suppliers in your ecosystem, then resiliency becomes a top priority, because if you've outsourced a critical business function, let's say, right, then it's your name out there in the clients, with the clients, and if something goes wrong with that supplier and your service is down, then it's your name out there which is at risk. So there are so many risks that need to be taken care of. So and as I said, I'll come back to my original point that we need to establish awareness about procurement as a function. I'm a big advocate of having procurement, having a seat at the CXO level. There are so many organizations where there is no CPO, right? So procurement needs a seat at the CPO level. So that's the second change that I'm highly advocating. Thirdly, I'll just briefly touch upon the small issue that you brought up. There are so many multiple systems, there are so many multiple contracts, you have to do a lot of manual work. Technology can take care of that. You don't have to spend so much of time in doing trivial things that don't add any value. You can actually, the technology can take care of it, and then you can spend time where you're most valued. You're spending time with your business, with your technology function, creating strategies, how to manage better relationship with the supplier, how to enable innovation with that segment of suppliers, right? How do you engage your business and your supplier in a discussion on how to innovate in your category? Because if your supplier can innovate, and if it can provide you innovative products, then imagine who's going to benefit from that innovation. It's you and your organization. Your organization will have a great competitive edge in the marketplace. So it's all tied together, right? It's a great function to have, and technology can take care of all those trivial things. You don't have to do manual searches. There should be just a button. Okay, this is the keyword. Okay, what is my termination for cause for this contract? There should be a button. Once you click that button, that termination clause should come up in a contract. There are so many items that we search on a daily basis within a contract.
You're talking about my Christmas wish list here, like all the things that I want. So
that's what I'm talking about. So technology has can change things, and there's a huge potential within this space. And you're right, Niharika. There has not been a lot of innovation in this space, which is what we are trying to change.
Thank you. And other thing that I would like to pick your mind on is, I'm just talking from my experience, right? Because I've always been on the supplier management side, and we've always had these other functions like procurement you mentioned and all. The other challenge that I have seen is working in silos. And for me, that is the biggest challenge. Like, everyone, especially like procurement, then you have the contracts management team, then you have the strategic sourcing team, then you have the vendor relationship management teams, and there is legal. So So the challenge that I have seen is like, and maybe it's because there's no like one-stop system for all of them to work together on, right? Because they all have their own systems and their own processes and processes that they follow. So they work in silos, and it becomes difficult to have that one strategic approach on how you are going to work with that supplier of yours, right? Like, am I making sense? Like,
You're totally making sense. And I think part of the problem is that procurement as a function is not centralized.
yeah,
You see this problem happening at places where it is not centralized. If procurement teams, vendor managers, sourcing teams, they're reporting to line of business, if they're reporting to technology, and then your left hand will not know what the right hand is doing. Right? If you have a smaller organization, if you work for a smaller organization, it might be easier to manage. But as you start to look at larger organizations with presence in multiple countries,
mm-hmm.
your left hand will not know. Right? You may be sitting in North America, somebody might be buying something in India, or somebody might be buying something in the Caribbean, and you will have no visibility into who's buying what, and you cannot stop them because they're not obligated to report to you, they're not obligated to tell it to you. So there is zero control. So I'm a big advocate of having having procurement as a function being centralized, and having a seat at the CXO level for procurement. That's the only thing that's going to solve this problem.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because the organizations that I work for, like they are like global organizations, and we have employees and like 10,000 plus and 12,000 plus employees. But it's just, it becomes hard when there is when not everything comes under procurement, right? Like, and then it's like lending has their own vendor management office, then the savings and membership division, because I work for banks, they have their own vendor management office, and then there is no partnership between those mushrooms VMOs, and then there is procurement who has its own function altogether. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to complain or anything like that. It kind of sounds like that, but I was just trying to tell
you're not complaining, you're just stating the obvious, and I don't think your organization might be is the only organization. There are so many other people who are in the similar situation.
Yeah.
Their procurement function is not centralized. If you're not reporting to the same leader, how can you achieve efficiencies? You can't.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of like build up on what Niharika was kind of talking about, which is what I think technology has done is it's created silos, especially because we're working at such a large scale across countries, across like 1,000 people, organizations, and all of that, big contracts going on. And silos, once they get created because of technology, for humans to be able to break those sometimes becomes very hard. Like, what in your experience have you learned about, there is a big boost in technology, but there is also a human element, and sometimes the power of technology down, like humans don't feel strong enough in front of technology. What is your learning? What is your understanding, thinking in this space?
So I think this is a trend that we're seeing not just in procurement, but everywhere.
Everywhere, absolutely, it's everywhere.
Technology has literally swept over our lives. People can't think of not having their phones anymore in their hands. They need access to their social media all the time. They need to post pictures on Instagram. They need to access their Facebook. So technology has certainly changed the human behavior. And I'm from that era where there were no computers, no internet. So during the summer break, we used to just go out and play, right? Just play with other kids and talk to other people. So there was a huge element of social interaction that was present at that time. Today, that element has gone missing because of technology. So this is one, if you want to call out a downside, this is one downside of using technology, that social interaction has gone missing. You see kids today, they're always busy in their iPads, their iPhones, and if you put them in front of someone to have a discussion, they're clueless. They don't know what to talk about. And so technology has certainly changed that side of it. I was reading a research a couple of months ago, and it talked about how technology and social media have changed human behavior. And there's actually a company that runs program for kids, and they're trying to train them on social skills. We have come to a stage where we need a training for social skills. That wasn't training before technology existed, right? It came naturally, right? It came as human interaction. You learn it from your family, your friends, your schoolmates, and your colleagues. You interact with them, and you learn social skills. Now we have come to a stage where that company is now providing training for kids, and training them on how to interact socially. So we have come a long way, and this should not be the way. We are human beings. We are social animals. Having social connect is very basic to our nature. So that we must preserve it, and we need to do something to preserve it.
Okay, amazing. So Rohit, my next important question, and I think this is like the bulk of the conversation. There's a lot of stuff you're doing in the space of like risk management, cost reduction, contract negotiation, governance, compliance. What are some of your big learnings through these themes that you're working with? Like what are some trends that you're seeing, and what are some change that you're trying to bring, and what is some work that you're doing in all of these different areas?
So first of all, as I explained earlier, we're trying to spread awareness. We're just trying to tell everyone that procurement is an important function, and we're trying to spread awareness about how should supply relationships be managed. We're also trying to spread awareness about procurement not being just a cost negotiator, right? We need to get above that. Procurement has a very strategic role to play in any organization, and we're also spreading awareness about that. We're also spreading awareness about how procurement function should be centralized. We talked about a few minutes ago. So those are the areas where that we are touching upon when we are spreading awareness, trying to create a space for procurement, which is really which is very critical for any organization. And on the other side, we're trying to do a little bit more with our procureit solution, where we're trying to solve the ground level problems that procurement teams across the world face. Some of the learnings I think we have already discussed. People do not have a procurement function in their organization. They need to start thinking about it today. They need to have a strategy, a framework ready, because unless you have a framework in place with proper RACI charts, it's hard to implement a procurement function. It's not a simple function to implement, because we touch so many facets within the organization, so many areas we have. There are so many areas where we have an impact. You need to have a solid framework on which you can build that procurement function. So, and then there are organizations which have a fully developed, procurement function. We need to learn from them. What are the things that they have done better than others? We learn, those things, and then we, implement it with other people.
So Rohit, just to like jump in here, I think everything else is clear. How do you build the risk management appetite in procurement teams? And I know that's a big area of focus for you. How are you doing that?
So risk management, I am a big, I always say that, you only need to take risks that you understand. If you don't understand the risk, don't take it. So you need to always think about what are the risks that are facing you today. And yesterday's risk might be different, today's risk might be different. Things change so rapidly. So I mean, we're living in a fast-paced world. So things change very, very dramatically sometimes and very quickly. So you always need to think on your feet, think about what's changing, how's this change going to affect me? How's, whether do we have risk appetite to, accept that risk? If we cannot accept that risk, then we need to find ways to mitigate those risk items. And then procurement is a support function, right? So you don't take risk decisions yourself. You involve multiple stakeholders into that discussion and laid out, this is the change that we're observing, this is what's happening. These are, you highlight those risks, that these are the risks, that are coming to us and which is going to impact us in a negative way. These are the things that we can do to mitigate those risks. And then we have an open dialogue with the executives in risk management, with your technology owners, with your line of business executives, and see what their risk appetite is, and then you take a joint decision, and then you take steps based on that.
So does anyone have any questions at this point for Rohit?
Hi, Rohit and Devangana, Bhavna here. So, Rohit, I have a question for you. So I remember I'm a sourcing procurement professional, and I remember those days when we used to have many face-to-face meeting with suppliers, and there was some shortage. We used to just take out vehicle and go to the supplier site, and I feel that this is the shortage and help the supplier to build a overcome and mitigate the risk. And also now in this digitalized and technological world, how we will be able to overcome this type of issues, because we are not always, earlier we used to find that try to find suppliers who are in vicinity of our factories, and also now those days are gone, right? So how to mitigate such risks?
So again, technology has changed so many things, including the one that you just talked about. And I would say, I mean, most of my meetings that I'm having, they're all virtual. There are a few suppliers who do come and meet us, and they invite us for a one-to-one meeting. And I love to go to those meetings because I'm old school thought. I still believe in one-to-one connections and meeting in person. But technology has definitely changed how we interact with our suppliers, with our colleagues, and so many other people. So depending upon, I don't know which industry are you in, but if that has changed for you as well, then I think it's time to embrace it. You can't fight it. There are times when I'm working with a supplier where I just cannot go, right. I either have to fly over there, or I need to spend a lot of time just to reach there. It's better to maintain that relationship virtually. If the supplier is local, maybe you can request them to have a meeting. I think suppliers will be more than happy to meet them in person. You just have to request them. But again, it depends on from industry to industry. I'm in technology procurement. Most of my meetings happen virtually, and I'm not happy with that. If I don't need to meet anyone, then I don't have to. But if your industry requires you to have a face-to-face meeting, just ask the supplier. This is what we want to do. We want to go to your data center or maybe your factory. We want to make a visit, and see how things are. I'm sure your suppliers will take that as an opportunity to build that connect with you, with your executives. They also get a face time with your executives, which is something they're always looking for, right? Because they may not have they may not have one single product to sell. They may have other products, and if they have that face time, then they also get that opportunity to pitch other products. So it's a win-win situation for both.
So let's go on a little bit, but procurement, IT procurement is a very complex space, and you've got into it, and you've built a legacy and a big line of work in this area. But what would be your advice to somebody young who is getting into the field as of now? And it's a lot of mental and constant strategic tactual labor that you're putting in. Uh, what would be your advice to someone young who's coming into this space?
So procurement needs more talented people than ever. There is a dire shortage of procurement people, and if there are people who understand technology, I'm not talking about technology from writing code perspective or troubleshooting perspective. You just need to understand the business of technology. That's what I'm alluding to. If you understand on a high level what technology is, then I think it's a great place to start. You can become a technology procurement manager. If you want experience in strategic creating strategic impact to your employer, because this is one area where you can have a huge strategic impact to your business operation. You may not be directly involved in the day-to-day operations, but you are that support function without which that operation cannot survive. So you're that reason why that business is staying resilient. This function is also very important, as I stated earlier, from P&L perspective, right? It has a huge impact on cost savings, and so you're making direct impact on any company's P&L. If you want to build relationship skills, if you want, and I think empathy, empathy is a great skill to have. If you want to build relationship skills, then this is a place to be. And if you like fast-paced environment, which is changing every day, no, I can tell, at least from my perspective, not a single day is same. I every day wake up and I always think, what's going to hit me today. So this is a very fast-paced environment with the exposure to cross-functional experience. You work with so many different stakeholders. You get an understanding of how each function works, what are their needs. So this is a great place to be if you want to do all that. And there are so many people who are looking for people in sourcing, procurement, management. Just start applying, just start to look at what this team, what people do in this area. I'm happy to connect if somebody wants to learn more, and I am happy to share whatever knowledge I have with them, and help in any way possible.
Amazing. Thank you. Any questions at this point?
Yeah. Hi, Rohit. Hi, Devangana. Just following with your answers, I would just like to ask, what would be the unique factor of a procurement manager? Like in this current world, normally a procurement manager have the negotiation skills, the decision-making skills, and all. But what can be a unique factor in this current time a person should have to be a good procurement manager?
Two things. You need to understand the business of technology, and need to have empathy as a skill. So those are the only two things which are, I think, highly critical for this role. If you have these two, rest everything you can learn.
And how do you, Rohit, how do you like my last follow-up question will be, you're in the business of IT, like how do you build empathy in teams, especially when they're so much reliant on, there's so much reliance on technology? Because empathy is such a human element, and
empathy is a human element, right? And technology has nothing to do with. It's a skill, right? Which comes with experience. You need to listen more, and you need to understand the other side. You need to put yourself in the shoes of other person. So whether you're interacting with your suppliers, whether you're talking internally with your internal stakeholders, uh, it's important to listen, listen more and speak less. That's how you build empathy, because once you start to understand the other person's point of view, why is certain thing important for that person, right? Why is it, what problem is it solving, or just understand what the other person is saying, and then you'll maybe it'll help you rethink uh, about the same issue. It'll help you in reimagining or rethinking about the same issue from a different perspective, which will also grow you as a professional. Because right now, if you're not listening to the other person, you have your own thoughts, and that's the only thought that you'll ever have. But if you're talking to other people, listening from them, learning from them, then you're also growing as a professional, because now you know more than what you already did.
No, I fully hear that. And I think that's the human element that we can never lose, despite and in spite of everything. Yeah, thank you for touching on that. My last question is, how do you see this, like what are the directions that you see your companies building in, and how do you dictate those directions? Because it's like a wide universe of everything that could come our way, you know, with all that's going on politically, socially, technologically, economically, intellectually. How do you how do you foresee the vision of your two companies changing, growing?
So that's a loaded question, by the way, but uh, I think we need, and that's not true for my company, but it's true for any founder, any startup founder, or any owner, any business owner. You need to stay abreast with what's happening around you. What's changing, and you need to constantly think about, how can you improve from where you are. You make one change, one small change every day. You improve 1% every day, and then you start a journey from there. And then you keep changing. Change is the only constant thing in the. I'm not the I'm not the first one to say that, and I think everyone knows that change is the only constant thing in this world, and we need to understand what's changing around us, and we need to see if this change is going to impact us, or is it going to make us better. So you keep making small changes, and then you reach to a place. I mean, you will never reach a place. It will always be evolving, right? You may be talking about 1% change every day from here until next 3 years, but by the time you reach 3 years, things will change again, right? So you just cannot sit still. So you just have to keep changing and keep having a strategy around, embracing the change, and creating change as a culture within your organization.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Any questions? And I think like that goes back to like how building amazing teams, which are just agile, empathetic, good listeners, like who can keep up with all that goes on. So yeah, every company needs an excellent procurement team. Rohit, any last thoughts that you feel like you would have liked to share and you didn't get to?
I think we covered it all, but just from last thoughts perspective, I think procurement is a great function to be in, and it has a huge, it has a huge impact on any organization, and it has a huge potential of growth, innovation, and change, and so I think we all need to do a little bit ourselves to create our own space in this area, and make the world know how critical and important this function is. So we all need to do a small bit every time, every day. But I thank you for inviting me, Devangana, for this wonderful session, and I thank all of you who joined.
It's really interesting. I feel like you brought such a different lens from many other people, just like in what you're trying to build and how you're getting all companies to just grow in the space of procurement without like the fear of anything, and just embrace change, embrace technology, embrace the upheaval and the risks that come with it, and make that okay for everyone. I think it's a hard task to take people along, and to take them along is fabulous. So
Yeah, we
thank you
have
for
a
what
strong
you're
team. So yeah, we have a very strong team, and we've been working on this project since last more than 1.5, 2 years now.
yeah
And I think without a strong team, which you can't go anywhere without, if you don't have a
yeah
strong team. So
yeah
I'm very fortunate to have a strong team behind me.
I fully agree. All right.